Hello, everyone. We are so glad that you could make it today for the Training Tuesday webinar on anchoring epoxy. My name is Heidi Reese, and I am with the marketing department at Dayton Superior. This month has been about chemicals so far, and last week we discussed formulas. If you missed that by chance, we have it posted on our website and on the YouTube channels, and you can locate that at daytonsuperior.com and search for product videos. You can also find any other technical and safety data sheets along with product contact information on the site. And we hope that you found that these short and insightful Training Tuesdays are helpful to you. And just as a side note, for some housekeeping, everyone has been muted that has joined. However, I don't want you to stop that from asking questions. We're going to have a brief Q&A session at the very end, so please feel free to type in any of your questions during the presentation or at the end to be answered. Do that through the Zoom chat room. You can find that in the toolbar. The chat is simple to find. It's just labeled chat. And then I will address those to the presenter and we'll get them answered for you. Also, this presentation is being recorded, so you can take a re-listen to it or share with someone that couldn't make it today or anybody that might find it beneficial for you. So let's get to it and talk about the webinar that we're going to have here. Today's topic is going to be about anchoring epoxies. We're going to find out what epoxy anchoring is and the types, the different styles and the various applications of that. We're going to do some factors and terminology of the anchoring systems, talk about the compliances, and then there's a software tool that will help you with those compliances. Today we have Holly Juergens, who is the Dayton Superior Chemical Product Manager, and she's going to be presenting for us. And Holly has been with Dayton Superior for a little over 8 years. And she's worked in the research and development, manufacturing, and like I just said, the product manager role. She has, in fact, formulated and tested many of our innovative products already in our Dayton Superior lab, so that's super exciting to have her here. And as a chemical engineer, as her background, she brings such a wealth of knowledge about how these chemicals are designed and how they work on the job site. She's got that MBA degree that allows business knowledge to be well-rounded in the approach for everything with the product management, but yet provide that technical support to assist with formula, DOT, and other certification needs, and testing questions. So she is also a member of multiple NETPEP, which is National Transportation Product Evaluation Program committees. So Holly, tell us more about anchoring epoxies.
All right, thank you very much, Heidi. So as you mentioned, today we're going to be talking about epoxy anchoring. Just a reminder that this presentation is intended for training purposes only. If you're looking for more technical specifications, please feel free to visit our website at www.daytonsuperior.com. So what is chemical anchoring? So epoxies are used in a variety of ways, from bonding to repairing cracks, filling joints, and chemical anchoring applications. Chemical anchoring is simply a technique for fastening concrete or similar substrates using any sort of non-mechanical means. So this may be anchoring bolts and dowels or reinforcing steel in concrete. Chemical anchoring is going to provide a more flexible approach, both literally and figuratively, as opposed to our means of mechanical anchoring. So as I mentioned, there are two different types of anchoring. There is mechanical anchoring and chemical anchoring. Mechanical anchors are typically used in cast in place or post-installed. Some examples that you might be familiar with from Dayton Superior are the Bearcat bolt or the T13 coil anchor. In terms of chemical anchors, we have different chemistries that allow for various benefits such as cold weather usage, corrosion protection, and varying degrees of strength. Those come in vinyl esters, epoxy resins, and acrylics. Chemical anchoring is generally superior to mechanical anchoring in many ways. When you're using chemical type anchors, you're not limited by size, steel grade, what your setting depth is, where your installation location may be in terms of how close to the edge it is, or the kind of base material that you're using. Chemical anchors are great for protecting against corrosion. It can account for imperfection in the drilled holes, whether they're oversized or they have some imperfections in the holes themselves. And it applies the load evenly across the entire length of embedment. Lastly, a molecular bond is created. So that's going to help with even stress distribution across the entire anchor itself, as well as adhesion between the anchor and the substrate that you're anchoring into. One of the things that we use chemical anchoring for specifically here at Dayton Superior is actually for some of our heavier testing equipment that we have anchored in our lab facilities using some of our epoxy. So that really heavy equipment is anchored chemically into the base of concrete that we have out back in our testing facilities. Some other applications for anchoring include rebar doweling, base plate installations, guardrail installations, and many more applications, such as attaching that heavier testing equipment to a pad of concrete to make sure everything's stable when you're doing really heavy tensile testing pulls. When you're looking at different anchoring epoxies, what are you looking for? You might be looking for a certain type or class within your ASTM C881 standard if it needs to meet that. You might take it a step further and need an ICC or AASHTO approval, which we'll discuss a little bit more in depth here in the next few slides. You also need to consider what your temperature is going to be, the temperature of your substrate and your ambient temperature. Will it be wet conditions? Will you have water-filled holes? Are you going to be around drinking water? All of this is going to determine what kind of compliances you'll need to meet, as well as what kind of material you're going to need within your chemical anchor. Is this going to need an epoxy, acrylic, a vinyl ester, or something different? So here's a look at some of the really typical chemical anchoring compliances. As I mentioned previously, you've got your ASTM C881. Another version is also the AASHTO M235. Typically, these chemical anchorings will have the ability to meet types 1, 2, 4, and 5. They're generally a grade 3, which means they're a non-sag, and they meet classes A, B, and C. This is determined by the temperature in which you're actually putting down the product. Some of you might need to look into your state DOT approvals to see which ones you can use. You might be limited by what's on your state DOT approved list. In that case, we have plenty of products that are approved on a wide variety of states across the United States. We also have some that are approved up in Canada. As I mentioned previously, we have both AASHTO and ICC. So AASHTO was originally founded based on plumbing, a lot to do with water, pools, any kind of mechanical issues that have to do with that, just plumbing in general. That's why you've got the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials. So they do testing for these chemical anchors as well as ICC. So ICC came together from a variety of different code councils to form the International Code Council. This one is based off of building codes from all regions across the United States. You have some that were in the West, some in the East, some in the Midwest. They all now come together for one basic code that you can follow. You can have your epoxies tested to either or, most accept both. And then lastly, we have our NSF 61. So this is approval for use around drinking water, typically used in water treatment facility projects. That's where you're going to need to determine if you're going to be around water that's going to need this approval in terms of what product you're actually going to choose. Along with all of this, you also have the opportunity to become a certified adhesive anchor installer through ACI, the American Concrete Institute. So this certification came around after a project kind of went downhill called the Big Dig outside of Boston. What happened here was that we found that the epoxy that was used to hold the roof in place failed. So this certification was put in place to make sure that people who are installing these anchors know the different kinds of procedures, the different kinds of products that you can use, and which ones are actually acceptable on specific jobs. Let's kind of get into a little bit of the actual application of these chemical anchors. So the steps you take before applying the products are actually just as important as the actual application itself. So you're looking at the temperature of not only your ambient area and your surface, but you want to make sure that you're conditioning your material to the proper temperature as well. Another super important part of the actual preconditioning is to pre-purge your cartridge So you're going to put your static mixer on, and you're going to pre-purge some of that material, push it through until you have what looks like a uniformly mixed product. If you're not using a cartridge and you're using bulk, you actually want to make sure that you mix part A and part B separately before you then mix them together for at least 3 minutes using a low-speed drill. We typically use a jiffy mixer. It helps relieve some of that air, or a paddle mixer. You only want to mix what you're able to use in the pot life. For products like our 300 fast, you're going to want to mix smaller amounts because it's going to set up a lot faster. While you're performing your job, you want to make sure you're going to monitor the substrate temperature, that nothing changes drastically before you're able to get your actual anchor installed. And as always, it's important to make sure that your hole and your substrate are clean and free of all contaminants before you start. So when it comes to the actual application of the chemical anchor, again, you want to make sure you're drilling your holes to their proper diameter and length for what's specified, and that you're cleaning those holes out extremely well. It's important to blow the concrete dust out of the hole to make sure that there's absolutely nothing that can get in the way of that chemical bond between your anchor and your substrate. Once you get that pre-purge done from your cartridge, or you've got your A and your B sides mixed well together, if you're using a static mixer, you want to make sure you get that all the way down to the bottom of the hole and start filling. As you pull that static mixer back out, you're going to fill that hole about halfway full. And then as you insert your anchor, you want to make sure that you rotate it slightly as you're putting it into the actual chemical anchor. This helps ensure that you've got proper adhesion, especially if you've got a threaded bar. It really helps get that chemical anchor within the threads of the bar. Again, it's extremely important to remember that epoxies are temperature sensitive. So if you're working at a warmer temperature, you're going to have a thinner material, and it's going to be a way quicker set time. So working with our 300 fast, for example, when it's hot out, you can expect it to set quicker than the 10 to 12 minutes it already sets at normal temperatures. Same goes for colder temperature. The material will thicken and it will lead to a slower set time. So that's why it's extremely important to monitor what the temperature will be on your job site, so that you can make sure that you're picking the appropriate product for your job. Just some of the typical anchoring terminology that we have. We've got different kinds of loads that are going to be applied to your anchors. A tension load is going to be applied vertically along the axis of the anchor. Shear load is going to be applied perpendicular to the axis of the anchor. So it's like taking that top half and just shearing it right off. That's the direction in which the load will be going. And then we have combined load, which is both tension and shear being applied to the anchor at the same time. So what does failure look like when it comes to a chemical anchor? There's loads of different ways things can fail. Luckily, we don't see them very often. You might have failures in the base material or the steel anchor itself. These can look like full or partial cone falls. You might have an anchor pull out. You might have an anchor actually break, so you've got that steel breakage. You could have splitting or cracking in the actual substrate. All of these are going to be avoided by choosing the correct product and monitoring the conditions of your job site whenever you go to actually apply your material. Now we're going to take a quick look at what Dayton has to offer in terms of anchoring epoxy products. We do have a variety of chemistries available, including a polyester methacrylate hybrid, a vinyl ester hybrid, and plain epoxy-based products. So to start off, we've got our Sure Anchor J50 and our Epoxy 300. It meets ASTM C881 for all of the types expected, as well as grade 3, and meets temperature classes B and C. It is a 1-to-1. This is a really great general anchoring epoxy. It's got really high compressive and really high tensile strength. It's a great option for just a typical anchoring job where you don't need something super fast setting, but you need that great strength. Faster setting options is our Sure Anchor J51 or our Epoxy 300 Fast. Again, this is our fast set. It sets between 10 to 12 minutes generally, and it still offers that great strength as well as those different types, grade 3. In classes B and C, there is an exception that is allowed for gel time due to fast set. Now we're getting into some of our hybrids. So hybrids are typically used in lower temperatures. They're best for what we would consider all weather conditions, as they can perform at much lower temperatures than epoxies can. So we have our all-weather J51AW, or our Propoxy 400. This meets ASTM C81, Type 2, Grade 3, classes A and B. This one's going to be ideal for cold weather applications, and it's a great general anchor adhesive, just like our Propoxy 300, but it's going to be great for those lower and all-weather temperatures. It is our polyester methacrylate hybrid product. We also offer some IATMO and ICC approved products. Our two IATMO approved products are our Pro Anchor Elite and our Pro Anchor Select. So our Pro Anchor Elite is that top of the line. You've got your IATMO certification. It's approved to NSF ANSI Canada 61 for drinking water system components, so it's safe to use around that drinking water. It's going to meet ASTM C881 for all of the applicable types, the grade 3, and all of the different temperature classes A, B, and C. It's great for cracked and uncracked concrete. You can also use it for water-filled or water-saturated holes. Our Pro Anchor Select is very similar to our Pro Anchor Elite. It's going to be slightly lower in strength, and it's a great economical version for large volume jobs. It also has an IATMO certification as well as NSF 61, and it's going to meet classes B and C as opposed to Pro Anchor Elite, which meets classes A, B, and C. Again, it's great for cracked and uncracked concrete. Our other hybrid product is our Pro Anchor Weather Max. This one is ICC approved. Again, this one's going to be ideal for those cold weather applications. It's a vinyl ester hybrid. It meets C881, types 1, 2, 4, and 5, grade 3, and just like Pro Anchor Elite, it meets all classes A, B, and C. It's got plenty of DOT approvals and has an NSF 61 approval for use around drinking water. Again, this is a great hybrid product if you need the approval as well as the use in low temperatures and the strength. This one could be used in temperatures down to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So with all these great options, how do you go about choosing the correct product? You know, we've got a wide range of solutions from good, reliable general anchors at a variety of temperatures with our 300, J50, and then the 400 and J51AW, to slightly better options in terms of speed and strength, as well as approvals with our Pro Anchor Select. And then you have the top of the line products like our Pro Anchor Elite and our Pro Anchor Weather Max. So these ones are going to be the best option with the most code approvals, including IATMO, ICC, and your NSF 61. So what you choose is going to depend on your needs. You've got different compliance requirements, job site conditions, strength requirements, and maybe even DOT approvals and limitations or specifications that you have to meet. Once you choose that product, you might be wondering how best to use your anchoring epoxy. So Dayton does offer a complimentary design software for our Pro Anchor Elite and Pro Anchor Weather Max. This software is going to help ensure that you meet all of your specification requirements, including that ACI 318 Chapter 17 strength requirement. It's going to tell you where you can install your anchor and what kind of product is best going to meet your job requirements.
All right, thanks, Holly. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat, and I'll get them stated, and Holly can answer. I do want to put a little blurb about the last thing she talked about was our complimentary, thank you, Anchor Design Pro software. You could find that on DaytonSuperior.com. Just search for Anchor Design Pro software or just Design Pro, and it will pop up for you. And you can go ahead and click it and be able to download it. So as far as the PowerPoint, we don't send them out per se, but we do post them to our YouTube, this webinar. So you are welcome to go out there. I will send an email around 3 o'clock to let you know where the link is, and you could forward that on to anyone that you think would find it beneficial. Is there any other questions? what's the difference between Pro Anchor Elite and Pro Anchor Select?
So the main difference there is that the Pro Anchor Select was designed to just be a slightly lower performing version of the Pro Anchor Elite. The Pro Anchor Elite, like I said, is our top of the line product. It's going to meet all of your ASTM standards classifications for, you've got Class A, B, and C, which is your temperature requirements. Pro Anchor Select does not meet that Class A requirement for C881. It's also going to have slightly lower numbers and strength, but it's overall a great product. The benefit of it is that it's going to be slightly less expensive than your Pro Anchor Elite. So if you need a code-approved product that's also safe around drinking water, that's got that great strength, but you have a need for a lot of it, it's really helpful to have that Pro Anchor Select product because it's great for large volumes. You're not going to be spending as much, but you still get the great properties that you need in a strong chemical anchor.
Great. I always ask that too in the very beginning, so
Yep.
Good question. Anyone else? All right, well, if there aren't any questions, I'll give you just a moment if you're typing. Again, I want to let you know that, I have one. So, how does it compare with RE500 Hilti?
The Pro Anchor Select or the Pro Anchor Elite?
Well, okay. Both of them or the Elite? Both.
So typically we would say that our Pro Anchor Elite is our comparative product to the Hilti RE500. The Pro Anchor Elite is going to have a quicker set time. It's also going to have similar tensile strength, and it's got a little bit of a higher compressive modulus and compressive strength than your actual Hilti product. We do have that software support to be able to plug in, chug, and see what you need to do. It's got great bond strength compared to Hilti's product, in some cases about twice the bond strength. So whenever you're anchoring something, you want to have that great bond strength to your concrete as well as to your anchor. It also can withstand better temperatures in terms of high heat deflection. So if you've got a product that has that high heat deflection number, it's not going to deteriorate as quickly as some other products with lower heat deflection temps. So if you're going to be in a warmer environment or it's going to be exposed to heat, you're going to want to use a product with higher heat deflection. Same with water absorption. It's not going to absorb as much water, so you're going to have a better integrity in terms of maintaining your strength and stability. Also, from what I can recall, I believe ours has a 2-year shelf life, and I believe last I looked, Hilti's was only 9 months. So you're going to be able to keep it around longer if you need to. If you've got any job delays, you're not going to have to worry about having to find new product because it's past its shelf life once you've gotten started. We also offer it in bulk packaging. So one of the great benefits of our Pro Anchor Elite is that we are code approved in bulk packaging of 10-gallon kits, which there are like pumps out there that you can use to help distribute that product as well.
Great. Okay, so do you have a comparison chart for your epoxies?
I believe there's one on the cut sheet online on Pro Anchor Elite landing page on our website. I believe it's on one of the marketing collateral on the left side of the landing page is all of the links to all of the documents. And on there, I believe there's a cut sheet that has a chart that compares our product to our competitor's product.
Yeah, so the person who asked that, I will contact you directly and let you know if we do or don't. And if we do, I will direct you to that link. All right. Anything else? We have time for one more question. Because it has a comparison, but the Pro Anchor Select is not in the chart.
Okay, so we need to update it to put Pro Anchor Select in there then, yeah.
Thank you for checking that out for me. Great questions, guys, great questions. Okay, well, I want to extend a very big thank you for joining in today. Just as a reminder, we have these every Tuesday. We have them on different subject matters and with usually different subject experts. As I said before, today's presentation has been recorded and it will be available on our website and YouTube channels probably around 3 p.m. and an email will go out to all you guys letting you know the link as well as the charts and what we've talked about, and a way to sign up for next week's training. So with that, thank you all for coming and have a happy Tuesday. Bye.